Yeah, exactly. Like sometimes this is a problem. You've been talking about this yourself. You've been talking about how the people have become so fragile that you cannot tell them anything anymore. You know, they become so sensitive. But now you're applying the opposite of what you preach, because you're saying, okay, people are going to be sensitive. We're just telling them what is true. Why would you?
No, but here's the difference. I have to interject
yes.
here because what I would say is this, bro. It's like the Prophet Muhammad said in the hadith. He says, "Inna ad-dina yusr."
Yes.
وَلَا يَشَادُ الدِّينَ أَحَدٌ إِلَّا غَلَبَهُ. Right? That certainly the religion is easy, and no one overburdens himself with the religion except that it will
push him away in a way.
It will overcome him.
Yeah.
So I do think we do have an advantage. We have to be honest, right? Our advantage is that we're born and raised in a Muslim environment. Mm-hmm. Okay. And when you're born and raised in a Muslim environment, your tolerance for Islamic practice goes up. Your ability to restrict yourself in certain contexts is higher. Your threshold is higher. One of the books that I was recommending to the brother, I told him about Dopamine Nation. Another one that I read recently, and I was speaking to you about it as well. Yeah.
You read a lot, huh? You're listening to books in the car.
I like it, bro. But there's one good book. I read it, I listened to it, and then I started looking at discussions. It's called Willpower, by Roy Baumeister. And basically he's saying this. He's saying that a human being he called it the ego depletion model. He says human being has effectively a limited level of willpower. Okay? And different activities that they do contribute to the depletion of that willpower. So, for example, if I've done, he done a study called the radish experiment in his laboratory. So what he done is he got some people, and he told them to fast. Funny enough, it's Ramadan, right? And then he put in front of them like a cake, something, or brownies. I can't remember, it was something nice.
And
right?
radish.
And radish. And he told them, look, you can don't eat the cake, but have the radish. Some people ate the cake, some people ate the radish, because some of them were hungry, right? Then he gave them a second experiment. He gave them an unsolvable puzzle, okay? So it's a puzzle which is unsolvable. And then he wanted to see how long they would take before they gave up on the unsolvable puzzle. So the ones who had the radish, the ones who did have the radish,
spend longer on the puzzle.
No, they would in fact give up quicker.
Really?
The ones who ate the cake would spend more time on the puzzle.
Why?
So the point is because this is his theory. His theory is, because you would think they have more willpower, they should be able to do both, right? His idea is that we have a limited willpower, and they've already consumed all their energy, okay, restricting themselves for the radish experiment. So when they came to the unsolvable, they had enough now. They had enough. So they don't want to do two very difficult tasks one after the other. You see? Now, why this is very important is because in our life, akhi, we're doing sports, we're doing religion, we're doing relationships, and all of that stuff actually takes away, it depletes from our willpower. Now, if you do too much too early, you will give up. This is the truth. Which is why I agree with the sentiment that with a revert or someone coming into Islam, they should focus on the bare basics. So
we're agreeing, absolutely.
Yeah, sure.
We were talking about something else.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Me and Abdullah.
Then I'm with you. I'm with you. So,
but we didn't clarify, so it's good that
one thing that this guy he said as well, which I find interesting, he said that he was effectively talking about willpower as a muscle, because he was saying that willpower works in a way that you can actually increase your threshold for it. So, like, let's say, let me give you an example. People nowadays have been doing cold plunges, jumping onto I don't know if you engaged in that, Sneeko, or not.
Yeah, cold plunges.
Yeah. Now, some people are really into it. They do it every day. Okay. And whatever, they say, I want to get, you've heard Joe Rogan, I want to get into the first thing I want to do is the hardest thing of the day, blah, 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 blah. Actually, on the ego depletion model, it's not a good idea to do it every day because it's a very stressful activity. And if you do a very stressful activity, you're less likely to be able to do more of those stressful activities. So if you're going to waste your credits on a cold shower or a cold plunge, yeah, you might increase your tolerance for it, but at the end of the day, it's a very stressful activity, right? But at the same time, your threshold can increase. So the same thing can be said about religion. Fasting is a very stressful activity, to put it bluntly, and it's meant to be. It's a very stressful because you're meant to abstain from food, from drink, from sexual intercourse, even the way you talk, all that kind of stuff. That's why when fasting finishes for a lot of people, they just go to the other extreme.
Binge eating,
this one, that one. Eid, you see what happens here in the UK in Eid, because people, they're just letting go. What Islam wants to introduce, I feel, is a kind of moderation. That's why when the Prophet asked, he was asked, what's the best deeds? He says, أدومه وإن قل. He said, the most consistent one, even if it's small. That's what the Prophet replied. Nowadays, self-help is coming to the same conclusion. I recently read another book called Atomic Habits, very famous one, by James Clear. And he says the same thing. Consistency is the most important thing. So, أدومه, and the Prophet ﷺ told us himself. He said, don't do ما تطيقون.
ما لا تطيق.
Yeah, ما لا تطيقون. Don't do what you cannot handle. So you have to know where your limits are, a little bit. Because if you're trying to jump into so hard, it'll be too much. So there needs to be a level of prioritization, taking things. Before, I used to get into Ramadan and jump into it, and I used to say, I'm going to read the Quran multiple times. And by mid-Ramadan, I'd be exhausted. So I've learned this time, I'm not going to do this. I'm going to take it easy now. 1 juz, 2 juz, 3 juz, maximum a day. Because if I try and do too much too early, I'm going to burn out.
How do you push yourself?
Push yourself near the end, maybe.
How do you improve that base level?
Yeah, for me, it's I keep doing it, but you know what I mean? Like, there is, you can improve yourself. There's a balance here, but what I'm trying to say is that you need to know your own limitations as well, I think, you know?
Yeah, so what you're saying, look, we don't disagree with what you're saying, because what me and the owner are talking about is completely different. So me and the owner are more thinking from the idea of telling people about Islam. This is what we're talking about, telling people the truth, right? Yeah. So his question was about the river, which is why you replied in that sense, which makes perfect sense, right? Yeah. We didn't clarify what we meant, me and the owner, right? Because I was talking about, for example, Prophet ﷺ, he's a messenger of God, etc. So what me and the owner are referring to is the idea of not being scared, saying that we
being honest,
of saying the truth, or talking about the teachings of Islam. Why is it the truth? Why is it right? etc.
Sure.
Yeah, these things. But when it comes to like a new Muslim and how this was going to come to afterwards, you know, because it was like an interjection in the middle when the owner came. But I knew what he was thinking, right? That's why I was like supporting him in that sense. Yes. So what I was telling you, not going against what you say. This is what I mean. Is being okay. I'm not going to tell the Christians Islam is the truth, for example, or I'm not going to say because I'm afraid that I'm going to push them away. There is a good way, a nice way, a right way of doing that, of saying Islam is the truth, given evidence is demonstrating it, and not shying away just because we are afraid that certain people might be offended if we say Islam is the truth, right? So that's one thing. Now, when it comes to a new Muslim coming into Islam. Now, first, you know, commenting just a little bit on what you said, right? So the idea of like. This is in the end the theory of an individual who wrote a book. Like his theory is that there is a level of willpower.
Yes.
And that level of willpower depletes. But I think this in the end is a theory. It's a theory, and
it has been challenged. Actually.
Yeah. And if you look at certain people, I think not all people are the same. This is the thing. You've got people like, for example, you mentioned Joe Rogan. I don't follow him. I never watch a podcast of him in my life. But the thing is, he could actually be doing it every day, right? And doing other stressful activities. He could. This idea of pressure could be that you could build on.
You could increase it. Yeah, no, he says that as well. Yeah.
Yeah, this is another theory, for example. It's just you can make.
No, I mean that he
mentions that in the book. Okay, that's interesting. You know?
But from the outside looking in, as a new Muslim, I gotta say, if you learn all the rules automatically, you're gonna push people away. I was in the masjid the other day. I was just reading the Quran after Dhuhr prayer. And a Saudi man came over to me, like full attire, everything like that. He's sitting down next to me. Like he starts pointing at my tattoos, and he starts talking to me. Like not only that, like the tattoos, like, oh, you should remove it. But he's showing me these videos. Like, oh, his friend is a Muslim influencer, and the video he's playing is talking about how, like, oh, if you have your children and they're drawing pictures of animals, tell them to not complete the drawing of the animal because it's haram to draw an animal. You know, and it's like, imagine telling somebody who's interested in Islam you're right. That you have to tell your kids that it's haram to draw an animal. Like, it was like a 5-year-old kid drawing a tiger, and you're like, nope, don't finish the tiger. Like, if you completely bombard them with all the rules, it's going to push people away.
And that's what Aisha radiallahu anha narrated. Like, you know, she said that if all the rules had come down before people had a good idea of what heaven is and what hell is, people wouldn't believe in them.
Absolutely.
You know, so there's one thing. The other thing is, Akhi, is, you know, I think the David Goggins, if you like, approach to Islam. You've got to do it and this and that.
Yeah, that's wrong as well.
Because that's what I'm actually like. David Goggins, I like him. I actually listen to him sometimes, but I can't listen to him all the time because I'm not sure if you've seen David Goggins, right?
Get hard.
Yeah, he's running.
Stay hard. Gotta stay hard.
Consider this to be some kind of light refutation of him. I like him, by the way. But I think I was listening to him one time. I listened to his podcast, listened to him with Joe Rogan and some recently with Andrew Huberman, and he said something interesting. He said like, "Oh, I can't really read for that long. Oh, after about 20-30 minutes, I find it hard, but I keep doing it. Blah blah blah." Now, David Goggins has got a big comfort zone when it comes to running, when it comes to triathlon, when it comes to sprinting. He can do that. We can't do that. If you try to go and do running for like David Goggins, my knee, I would collapse. I actually did a marathon, by the way, because I wanted to push myself. I said I'm going to do a marathon. I actually did. I completed it, and when I finished it, I dropped down and all this kind of stuff. I was in Norway. It was one of the most challenging things I've ever done because I was very heavy, like 250 pounds.
I like how you point at me when you say that.
You know what I'm talking about. You know what I'm saying? No, but so if I tried to keep up with Goggins or someone like him, I wouldn't be able to do it.
Right.
But I'll bring him to a library now, and now let's let him. His comfort zone is running. That's his comfort zone. So let me put you in a library for 2 hours, just read and then do this examination, and you keep failing. You'll see how frustrated this guy gets. Or put him in an MMA ring. I've never seen him fight anybody. Sorry, with all due respect to David Goggins, your comfort zone is running and doing pull-ups. That's your comfort zone.
You know, he cornered Tony Ferguson in a fight. You know
that's
that?
between you and him and the guy. He
cornered
him, but he didn't fight him.
He cornered Tony Ferguson, but he lost.
No, I mean, you went against Sean Strickland, the middleweight champion. I mean, it's we haven't seen him do anything like this. Get tough, get hard. Let's see. Go into the ring with a top guy. Take the punishment. I want to see how you handle it.
Was he in the military or something like that?
Maybe, but he wasn't in the military. But I've never seen him like this. Certain context, David Goggins would struggle in. Okay, so what I'm saying is that willpower is contextual. If you bring someone who have a very heavy jahiliyyah, women every day, this, that, smoking, weed, blah blah blah, and then you bring them into that, and then you have to bombard. It doesn't matter how they've been David Goggins in other fields. They won't be able to be David Goggins in Islam, and it will push them away.
No, absolutely. We agree there.
So what I mean is that we have an advantage. It's like someone going into the cold plunge every day. If someone going into the cold plunge every single day, their tolerance for the cold water is very high. Mine and your tolerance for Islamic teachings and not seeing a woman in a certain way and discussion and this and that is high because we've been raised on this. But someone who's just come in, his tolerance is low, with all due respect, and he needs to be built up slowly. So the way I would do it, I mean, I don't know what because you get a lot of mashallah converts as well, and you do as well in Los Angeles, right? But and I know you know this because we've had this conversation already. But the first thing I just let them know the kaba'ir al-ithm because the Quranic ayah says الَّذِينَ يَجْتَنِبُونَ كَبَائِرَ الْإِثْمِ وَالْفَوَاحِشَ إِلَّا اللَّمَمَ, the ones who leave off the major sins and the lewd sins, except for the minor sins. So the first thing I say, look, what are the major sins that you're falling into? What's a list of the major sins? Being bad to your parents, the shirk, obviously, the big ones, the tawheed ones, and then being bad to your parents, riba, this one, that one. Okay, let's eliminate those ones. All we're going to be focusing on, number one, for the next 6 months, is eliminating the major sins and the 5 pillars of Islam.
Right.
That's it, because it's not fair that you can do any more. The next 6 months, okay, we're still struggling on these issues, we'll do this same thing. We'll work on it for another year. Now, year 2, your tolerance is a bit higher now. So we introduce some of the, music. Okay, we'll talk about music now. We'll start talking about it in more detail. These are the opinions, this and that. Khalas. Yeah. But I wouldn't introduce someone with music and drawing and this because it's not one of the major sins by anyone.
Absolutely.
Do you know what I mean?
And Warren is right. It's good to warn people and be honest about that. But when an addict gets out of rehab, you don't immediately go cold turkey. You give him methadone. You give him pills to go and slowly wane off from heroin.
But one thing I would say is, like, from my experience, is majority of Muslims don't know how to speak to non-Muslims. That's what I've noticed. There's only specific people that know how to deal with non-Muslims. Yeah. So you should allow those people to deal with them. If you don't know how to deal with non-Muslims, then why are you trying to deal with non-Muslims? You're just gonna scare them away.
But this is what I wanted to comment on, is like, there are different aspects. Like, for absolutely, me and him are in agreement, whatever he's saying to do with the reverse and converse, because both of our points is about sharing the truth, right?
Sure.
It's not being apologetic when you're sharing the truth. You have to share the truth, say the way that, okay, Islam doesn't accept homosexuality. These things that we're talking about, right?
Okay.
Is that we will talk about these things unapologetically. Now, when it comes to dealing with you Muslims, first I want to mention look at what happened to you in a positive manner first.
Yeah.
That's what I want to do, because why did these people do this? This is the first thing I thought about when you said
What
it.
people?
The people who came to him in the haram, was in the haram or the people who came up to him about the tattoos and this and that.
Yeah.
Why did they come up to you in the beginning? This is a positive side that I heard first when he was describing it. Is they have a good intention. Of course, their application is wrong. Because we're not talking about Islam now, we're talking about Muslims doing specific things, right? Their application was wrong, but their intention was pure, I would believe.
Right.
I would have good intention about them. Because what they wanted is, we have something in Islam which makes this nation the best nation, as the Quran says. Allah says, "Kuntum khayra ummatin ukhrijat lin-nas." You were the best nation to be brought up to the people. Then Allah says, "Ta'muruna bil ma'ruf wa tanhauna 'anil munkar." That you enjoy the good and forbid the evil.
But the issue is,
So I'm gonna come to you. I know what you want to say.
Yeah.
So I'm saying where it's coming from.
Yeah.
What differentiates, for example, some Muslims of coming up to you and telling you this and don't do this and don't do that,
Yeah.
but it ends up in your situation doing the opposite.
No, but akhi, like, the only issue with that is like, you're absolutely right, by the way, I don't disagree. But about it being munkar in the first place, because munkar is something muttafaqun alayh.
Yeah,
Munkar
yeah.
is this thing everyone knows is bad. The mas'ala,
Munkar is evil, basically.
Evil, it means evil. The issue of somebody having tattoos from a previous life, now having to remove those tattoos, okay?
They don't have to.
Exactly. So the point is that this person has now identified something as evil, which the scholars don't even think is evil like that. They don't even have to. Majority of scholars don't even say that you have to remove
I know.
this thing.
That's why.
That's one.
That's why I'm saying they ended up doing the opposite, and their application is wrong.
So the intention
But-
could be good. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm highlighting a very positive thing that I think differentiates Muslims from a lot of other people.
My point is, even if he had good intentions, I was just there in the masjid trying to read the
His
Quran for
application
a little
is
bit.
wrong, yes.
I was trying to like have some alone time to read the Quran, and he felt like because he had good intentions, sit down and start talking and playing
No,
videos.
it's
I was
like-
distracted. I was just trying to read for a little bit, some alone
he's-
time.
He ended up
I
doing
think
the opposite.
I think
Yeah.
he done the wrong thing.
Yeah,
in my
absolutely.
opinion.
No, it's true.
I think the munkar was what he done, in my opinion.
That's correct. Because in order for you to do what we said, forbidding the evil and enjoining the good, you need to know the good and the
Exactly,
evil first.
exactly.
Not only that, but also the method of how you convey what is right and wrong. That's also, there are conditions. There are books written on conditions
Yeah.
of al-amr al-ma'ruf wa nahy anil munkar. So we're agreeing that what he did is wrong.
And also there's
And-
the issue of, sorry to keep cutting you off,
No, it's fine.
but the issue of letting kafir masail al-khilaf as well.
Yeah.
Because let's say, for example, let me give you a crude example. There's a difference of opinion among the scholars as to whether a woman should wear a face covering or not. Okay, so some scholars say she has to, as wajibs.
Yeah.
To wear niqab. And a lot of scholars, I'm not going to say majority minority, but the three schools of thought, most probably that you find these fatwas in those, is that she doesn't need to do any such thing, right? That she can show her face.
متقدمين منهم.
Yeah, say that again?
متقدمين ثم متأخرين معهم.
Yeah, you told me that it's a Shafi'i, mashallah, and Hanafi as well. Okay, but the point is that okay, if a woman sees another woman without her face covered, and this is a very crude example, but she comes to her and says, "What you're committing is a sin." Okay, she doesn't have a right to do that.
Yeah, but she doesn't have the
She
right to
doesn't have
do
a right to do
it.
that because clearly there's a difference of opinion, and clearly some scholars said this and this and that, and leave her alone effectively. And I would consider that to be a kind of harassment if a woman does that, judgmentality. She can say, look, in my opinion, blah blah blah, and here are the evidence. She can go, and the woman might not want to entertain that. The one without the face covering. She might say, we can talk about this later, but I don't want to. But for her to move it forward to a next level and say, well, actually, this is evil, and what you're doing, you're accumulating sin by doing this. It's not ijma', molten ijma' that it's evil. It's not a consensus.
True.
That it's evil even. There's difference of opinion among the scholars. So this kind of judgmentality that they're coming with is, it can create unnecessary division.
It's repelling.
Nufra, yeah.
Yeah,
It can
repelling.
create. Yeah, it's like the Prophet ﷺ says, يَسِّرُوا وَلَا تُنَفِّرُوا.
He said, "Inna minkum munafirin" as well.
He said
that
some
from you are people who
people
rebel.
that you
Yeah.
repel people from the religion.
Yes, true.
So I think all of this is, if someone understands the idea that la inkafi masail al-khilaf, there is no real blame on issues of difference of opinion. then when a revert comes in and he hears these differences of opinion, this person saying this is definitely wrong, this person saying maybe it's not, so long as these come from the four schools and that they are ra'yul mu'tabar, it's legitimate difference of opinion, then the person should know that it's okay for there to be a difference. And if you follow the easier opinion, frankly, I would say to the revert, and this might be controversial, I would say to him, follow the easier one. Follow the easier one.
There's two views of the scholars in this.
Yeah.
Like some of the scholars view that you take the easier, some of the scholars say be cautious. These are two
Exactly.
views and they're all both accepted. This is the same thing that we're talking about now. Like
For the revert, I would say follow the easier one.
yeah, you can. Yeah.
I have a question, and both of you touched upon it, but I don't think you've answered it, which is, where do these issues come from? How can we have large numbers of our community, when they deem something to be negative, they quickly interject without checking? So once that question is tackled, is it lack of education or is it a particular type of education? Then we can have a better understanding where they're coming from and their concerns and their intention, etc., and then I think that we can provide perhaps or suggest certain solutions. But at the moment, I think that's the crux of the question.
I think, it's coming from this idea that I have the dalil, and therefore my dalil must triumph everyone with
What does
dalil.
it mean?
Dalil means the evidence. So you find a lot of people say, well, if you have a hadith, right? This hadith is the cutthroat evidence. That's it. It's as simple as that, right? This is something which came about. So I'm following the hadith, this person's not following the hadith. The problem with that line of thinking is that Ibn Taymiyyah wrote a whole book about this. He's a 13th century.
Yeah.
He wrote a whole book and saying like, well, you've got one hadith but two different ways of interpreting it. So these people are interpreting it in this way, these people are interpreting it in this way. There's one hadith but two different ways of interpreting it. So don't try and bully someone with your interpretation of the hadith. Especially not a revert, someone who's coming in. It doesn't matter how strong if David Goggins became a Muslim tomorrow, I would use this approach with him because I don't care how strong he is when he's running. Right. Islam is a different thing, akhi.
Yeah, do you have a personal issue with him?
No, because he's so tough. But I don't care how tough you are. You're a human being, bro.
Right.
If you're gonna start a new language, you learn a new language, and we'll start basics, nouns today, verbs tomorrow, this and that. It has to be like that because if you give him all in one go, he's gonna say that I tried and I failed.
This makes me think about a subject that brought a lot of people to Islam recently. We're talking about why it's the fastest growing religion. It's probably because of the Israel-Palestine conflict. A lot of people are realizing the truth about Islam in the past 2 years or so. How honest and open should we be about the Israel-Palestine conflict? How much should we talk about Zionism? Because if that's one of the most effective ways to get people to come to Islam, how much should we balance that with terms of scaring away new Muslims and also avoiding censorship?
I think I'll let you maybe come on this if you want, but I think we didn't really answer the question that you were making before, because we did have more of a, I would say, a higher level disagreement for the audience. Maybe they were lost. But the question that he was asking about the new Muslim, how should they approach Ramadan? I don't think we really give an answer to that question. Yes. So the Prophet ﷺ, how did he deal with new Muslims is how we deal with new Muslims, because you were talking about what method do you take, right? Prophet �ﷺ, what he did is when he sent Mu'adh, his companion, to Yemen, he said to him, let the first thing that you call them to is Tawheed, which is monotheism. I.e. teach them about the attributes of Allah Azza wa Jalla, teach them about the most important things about God, about these things, right?
Probably the best way to connect with people is Tawheed.
Yeah, absolutely. So focus on that first. That's the first thing. Then the Prophet ﷺ said, once they agree with you on everything there, they understood, they accepted it, they learned it, then teach them about the prayer. That Allah have made 5 obligatory prayers. Okay, how to pray. This is how we deal with new Muslims. We don't overwhelm them with information. We don't say to them, do this, do that. We say, okay, look, this is the Tawheed. This is monotheism. This is how to worship Allah Azza wa Jalla. This is the things to avoid, shirk, this and that. Then, okay, this is how you learn how to pray. Read the Quran and at the same time learn how to pray. That's it. Because what happens is, there's so many ways of overburdening that happens to the new Muslim. One of them is engaging with different Muslims. Okay, this guy says this, this guy says this, this guy says this, this guy, and then he is completely he's lost. Another thing is an overwhelming sense of information. It's a completely new religion to me. It's 360 degrees. I don't know what is Salah, Hadith, what are all of these terms. I've never heard them,
Especially as a public figure like Sneeko. Now, his issue is, I'm guessing, and I've seen some of it myself, he comes on the stream, and all these guys are attacking him on, oh, you this and that, and this, and the tattoo, and the music, and that one, and the armpit hair, and all. It's haram, man. What you're doing is, what they're doing is haram to him. Wallah, be actually haram.
You know, he mentioned something important though. He said, and this is true, is a lot of the people who comment are not necessarily Muslims. A
No,
lot of
the Christians that are
beliefs-
trying to push me away.
I love
from
the
it.
haram, and this is a very important
Most of
thing.
you
that-
guys are Christians.
And I've noticed it on my own streams.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
come secretly trying to send questions as Muslims opposing that. And then I notice how they phrase the questions, what they say. You can differentiate between a Muslim and I'm a Muslim. So, and I've actually, when I made the first video reaction to Sneeko, this was the first point I made. If that was a while ago now, I don't know how many months. I said to the people that this is a new Muslim. Your approach toward them, if you saw that video, I don't know. I said your approach cannot be the same with someone who's been a Muslim his whole life. It cannot be just following Sneeko, okay, do this, don't do this, do that, don't do that. So yeah, and I told him he should be supported. Like you can see the amount of you can see the effort he's putting to push Islam forward. Like compare him with other people who accepted Islam. They don't do as much. They don't go try doing da'wah, spreading videos, doing these things. You know, so these are true things that he's doing, and he should be supported for them. So yeah, the new Muslims have to take things up absolutely a step by step. You cannot be like you became a Muslim 2 days before Ramadan, and then now you start going to Taraweeh, reading the Quran every day. You're not going to be able to do that. You're not going to be able to do that. So yes, you take things gradually, a step by step. You fast is the most important thing. Okay, you know, you learn about the important things. Yeah. Okay, how do I fast? You read the Quran, and in the meantime, you're learning how to pray. This is as a new Muslim, right? These are the most important things. You learn about the monotheism.
Yes.
You know, worshiping Allah Azza wa Jalla alone, not associating partners with Him.
Yes.
Then reading the Quran and learning how to pray.
Yes.
This is what you should focus on as a new Muslim. Don't overburden yourself.
Exactly.
And don't be asking questions to 100 different people.
Yes.
Like, look for someone who seems like to be respected in the community, well known, maybe in the masjid or this or that. Ask him questions and take what he says to you.
MashaAllah, I'm
and
very
follow.
blessed to be able to speak to so many people that are knowledgeable about Islam early on. That's why I've been able to skip a lot of these steps.
And if you do, like let's say for example, and this is the controversial part, I guess. Let's say you go to person A, and you go to person B. You ask them the same question because you don't know what's going on here, so you ask them. But they're two respected scholars of the community. Now, the Prophet ﷺ, he mentioned a hadith, or Aisha said about him, that he wasn't told to choose between two things except that he chose the easier of them. Now, as you mentioned, there's different scholarly opinions. Some say you have to choose the harder opinion because of in the halal bayn or in the
I wouldn't say even harder. I say the more cautious, right? Yeah, the more cautious. Yeah. Because of
the hadith of Nu'man ibn Bashir and so
yeah, no. I just wanted to say that it's not really to look at it from a hard and easy point of view. It's more of like like this. Okay, this is a hadith of the Prophet. As you said, this hadith of the Prophet he said, if you avoid these gray areas, then you're safe. So there is no doubt that the person who takes the safest opinion is safer than the other person who takes not the safest opinion.
If it's a new person to the religion, then the safety,
that's a different issue.
The safety is more because this person now, he might overwhelm himself.
But also a question with regards to safety, I know it might be a higher level discussion. The layman is ordered first, so there's no safety in that sense for him. He's done his due diligence, which he asked Ahl al-Dhikr, and he goes with them. So there's no safety from that. Safety is only from the nahiyah of maybe the Talib or Mufti.
Person who look at different opinions. That's what I was saying. As a new Muslim, shouldn't be anyways engaging with different. You just end up confusing yourself. So you should be focusing on one person. What he says to you will be doing in the beginning. Once you increase and learn, you can obviously look at the difference.
If he does go to 2 or 3, like this is my personal advice to him. I don't like to follow it, but if let's say you go to 2 or 3 different people, and you're new to religion, even if you're new to practicing, forget about new to religion. My view is that so long as there's 2 legitimate views in Islam. Legitimate. Then we're not talking about the ghir mu'tabar.
Exactly. It's a very important point to mention.
No, 2 legitimate views.
Legitimate disagreement.
Which the scholars have spoken about for hundreds of years and so on. You choose the easier one, no problem. Why? Because right now we don't want to overburden you. Right now, Islam is not religion, and there is precedent for that, and there is hadith about that, and this is something the scholars have spoken about. So. Yes, you shouldn't be listening to too many people in one sense. Choose 1 or 2 guys that you trust them, with their Islamic knowledge. And if you feel like this person is saying something very difficult on an issue which you find to be will trouble your life, go with the easier opinion for now. Until you establish yourself in a stronger position, and then in which case you can be more harsh on yourself. But you've got to build up. I think that, once again, this idea of overburdening, because I've seen it, and it's very dangerous, especially in my opinion, with, I would call them high-profile people. Because if someone with all due respect, Sneeko leaves Islam, it's more harmful than the average person leaving Islam. If that makes sense. Because he's got people following him now. And so the threat of him finding it overburdening is more, for me, a priority than somebody else. I would even be more, and that's why same thing with Andrew Tate. people are quite harsh on him and stuff like that. He's living in Romania. He doesn't have an Islamic group around him telling him this.
Miami, there's no Muslims
Same
at
thing
all.
with
I'm the
Miami.
only one.
So we've got to really be cautious with people like this.
Right. I don't think it's overburdening. I'm not trying to victimize it. I find some of it annoying because I am the center of a lot of those, and I think about like how a new Muslim or somebody who's interested or somebody watching right now who's looking into Islam and how they could be pushed away.
But it's not just you.
Like that.
Even if it's not just, I'm saying that the general manhaj, the general methodology with somebody who's new to practicing or new to Islam should be really like leniency and a slow and a gradualist approach. A real gradual, incremental approach. It's like anything in the world. It's like...
So would you say that the shaitan uses these people to overburden these reverts, to repel them?
Thinking that they're doing good.
Yeah,
he does.
Could do, bro.
Yeah.
Could do. Like, you got to really think twice. Do I need to say this to this person at this time? Is this going to help him in his Islam? Or is this going to help me? You think I'm a... Because let's be honest, it's true that some people have good intentions. But let's be honest, some of them have bad intentions. That they want to, they have a holier than thou attitude.
Yeah.
And they want to judge someone.
It's true,
you see?
it's true.
So they'll find the revert or they find the new Muslim or the newly practicing person, so that they can practice their judgmental skills, so they can feel better about their lowly lives. No, but it's true.
But good intention is not sufficient when it comes to
The actions.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes. So the application has to be correct as well. Yes. Yeah, that's true. So leniency is absolutely needs to be there. The gradualism of dealing with the new. That's why when we're talking about, like, this is more of a, that's why I was saying it's a high level discussion for the people watching, right? I don't want them to get confused. Like, for example, for example, referring to a general ruling and then now talking about specific things to do with the reverse, their application with them. Also, the people watching need to be careful. Like, the two opinions of taking the opinion which is more lenient versus the opinion which is more cautious. It's not the same with someone who's always been Muslim, born Muslim, with someone who's a real. So these differentiations also have to be made. And sadly, like, I get people who DM me, for example, say, brother, like, do you need help with the new Muslims? I never respond to these people because I don't know you. I don't know whether you'll be able to deal with them correctly, whether you teach them right, you'll have gradualism with them. You've got a good intention, talking about the good intention there. Do you want to help? Do you want to support, right? But if I bring him, he ends up doing the opposite. Like, okay, the work that you've done of like bringing someone closer to Islam, he's going to do the opposite now, pushing them away, right? So you have to be very careful with the people that are dealing with the new Muslims and how they deal with them, right? So it's very difficult.
بشركم اليوم سرورا